Hi everyone. Currently I am in a tizzy. I've been trying to set up some new hardware. Got some new stuff, arms for my cameras, and not working out exactly as I hoped. But that won't stop us from having a good time tonight. Hello, Linda, Amy, Damon. Welcome, guys. And Scorb. Okay, I need to get all this camera equipment out of the way now. I got this, check this out. Got this crazy camera arm rig thing that is like articulated at 4 different points, and in the picture I totally imagined in my head and thought, well, this is a $130 piece of hardware. Surely you can just position it with one hand and it's got like magic ball bearings or something, or springs that would let you just like position it. But no, you have to go in with 2 hands. You have to hold it with one, unlatch it, and then latch it back. So that I am disappointed. So I spent the last hour trying to get this lamp arm that I have my older camera on hooked over here for this camera, but it was not to be. Don't have the proper connections and such. So I guess I'm just going to search for, I don't even know what that would be. I mean, this is a posable camera arm. I guess it needs to be a one hand, what is that called? What is it? Someone tell me. What do I look for? Just use more duct tape, Damon says. Well, I'm using a lot of it already. So I was hoping I would have this guy airbrushed before we started, because getting the camera over there is obviously problematic. But as you can see, I'm pretty close to being done with this. I just gotta get the bugs on there. I've got all these crappy practice bugs that I think will look fine when they're underneath it, because you just kind of see little glimpses of them. I'll show you what he looks like lit up. So I was not able to get the sickly yellow that I was going for, because so many of the LEDs were like shooting off red and green bits, and it was just looking too Christmassy. So when I went orange, at least it stayed within the range of red, orange, yellow. So that is what I'm going with. So my plan is that I'm going to build some like gross black leech things. I was going to make all these little like centipedes crawling out of here. And last night I spent an hour trying to get all the little legs in here and then pour some resin. And the amount of fiddling that was required just to even make one of these guys just looked like it was going to be so extreme that it was not going to be worth it. So came up with the idea of just doing not legged gross bugs, like some kind of leechy type things. Here's some I use this liquid resin, but it doesn't have the little legs, so I thought I'll see if I can just kind of like cut it out somehow. I don't know. I may not even come back to that. We'll see. But I did a couple more washes, and I really like how it's popped out the detail of this now. And I thought I can take it just a little bit further by accentuating some of the lines with some airbrushed depth. I've never tried airbrushing this shade, but I think it should work. So I think I might do that now. Let's see how my posable camera works for this operation. Pop it up like so. Here's my little airbrush booth. And that'll just have to be good enough for now. Amy says it's probably because they want to make sure that the arm won't droop with a heavier camera. Yes, that is surely why. I like the orange, though it definitely is a slightly different look. Yeah, not exactly what I wanted, but maybe it looks more like an angry infection than like a sickly poison. I can go either way. Damon is asking, how heavy is my camera? It's not super heavy. It's a 3/4 camera, which is kind of a newish class that they have. It's a mirrorless camera, so it's not like a weightless webcam, but I mean it has a pretty beefy lens on it. I don't know, it's probably 5 pounds. Scorp says, don't know about camera mounts, but think the monitor mounts are pneumatic, so you can pose them without having to loosen or tighten anything. Yeah, so I have a 2-arm mount for my monitors for my desktop computer. That is indeed what I should look for. They've got like springs inside the arms. Okay, let me turn on the airbrush. There's the other guy. I sprayed some, matte clear coat over it, which made it a little less shiny. I think what I'm going to do is try to leave the rust spots matte, well, as matte as they get. Right now that's kind of semi-gloss, and then glossing up the parts of it that aren't rusted. I don't know. So we need this guy, and hopefully that's enough. Damon says you could try looking for gooseneck arms. Okay, never heard of that. Good call on gooseneck. Use one of these to hold up a large tablet next to my monitor. Alright, I'm going to put that in a search bar right now so I don't forget. Gooseneck arm. There's no way that can be strong enough. Is there? Maybe I'm looking at something different. Flexible gooseneck. neck and rigid arm demonstration. Alright, I'll look into this. Alright, now you get to look at my back for about 5 minutes. Damon, no passing notes. Unless you're going to read it to the whole class. Alright, what have you kids got up to while my back was turned? Fat says, looks really cool. Damon says he's gonna bring a sexy back. Amy says, ha, quick, throw a party while the teacher's not in the classroom, passes notes. Damon, though I'm sure these days they just text each other. True. Amy is doodling on her desk. Fat is watching the World Series. Damon is crafting a paper football. Amy is hiding. Fat is busted. Bitgreen, hey Bitgreen, says I'm late. Is this the same workroom but from a different angle? Yes, it's the secret angle. The secret airbrushing booth that I have hidden off to the side. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to start making some gross wormy things. I think I'm just going to use, I have black wire ready to go. And no, I did not cut it all up. Alright, I guess I'll just open a new one. Ah, everything's so messy right now. Blah. Oh, and I managed to get resin stuck on my scissors even after cleaning it off right after I spilled it. And it looks like they will still kind of work. Okay, gonna do some design here. This is gonna be a little bit of 3D design, a little bit of graphic design. I think I'm gonna pull this little guy out and just assume he's gonna be hanging out here. I'm going to turn the light down a little bit so it's not blowing out the light of the camera. Alright. So I thought I would make some kind of slimy, leechy things coming out of his forehead rather than centipedes. I would have preferred centipedes, but way too many legs, man. I did not have time to detail and pose hundreds of legs. I gotta finish this in a day or so. Fat says, I know I have mentioned it before in your sculpting tutorial, but what do you do for a living? And Damon says he works for ArenaNet. Yes, I make video game levels. I do art and design. So I'm thinking one of the interesting things about doing slimy leech things coming out is that they can be oozing just like black goo, and I've got black hot glue that I can actually have drips coming down. I don't know if I want to do black ooze yet. I'm thinking about it. I'm worried that graphically a lot of black elements are going to overpower everything else that's going on, but it's hard to say because when you're dealing with light as an element of your sculpture, that's a very what's the, like a visual anchor. It will draw people's attention to it very strongly, and as the artist who's been making it, I filter out the light because I'm used to it. I've been working on this for hours and hours, and so I don't see it as a visual anchor anymore. And that's where, like, stepping away from it for a day or so and coming back is very helpful. Damon says the black will block the light, or it will look weird if the light pushes through the black. Fat says, ooh, I actually like ArenaNet. It's nice to be liked. There are plenty of people who hate it, so... Why do I feel like it's dark in here? Are you guys getting little lines scrolling up the main image here, like going about that fast? I'm seeing that in OBS, but I don't think I see it on YouTube. Damon says, oh, not that much hate. Yeah, I see him. See the lines? Or the hate? Okay. I'll have to dig around and look into that later. Damon says, but only after you pointed them out. Fat says, I don't see any. Amy says, a little bit. It's noticeable, but not bad. Dottie does not see it. Fat says, but I only have 1 pixel, so not a big screen. I have 1 my pixel. I only have 1 my pixel. Not sure what that means. Alright, so I think I'll move some of these guys out the way so that my leeches don't mess them up. I have not decided how many of these things I want to make. If I want to do just a handful of kind of large ones, or maybe like 1 or 2 large ones and then a bunch of baby ones, or what. We'll see. Fat says, I don't know why that came out like that, lol. Linda says, clear here. That's very interesting. For the people who say it's clear, tell me, are you on a mobile device or on a desktop computer? Because that might explain the difference. Fat says, I don't, but I'm on my Pixel, so not on a big screen. Okay, the Google Pixel phone. I was thinking about getting a Pixel 2 for my next phone. Right now I have a Nexus 5S. Got it used from someone, so it is several years old. Damon is asking, how do you plan to eventually secure the face to the wood? So it's going to be like oozing sap all around it. So that's going to be resin or hot glue or a mix of the two. So it's going to be very secure. Dottie says, I'm on my phone. Linda says desktop. Okay, so someone on a desktop is not seeing the lines. That's interesting. Amy says, I'm on my iPhone and I could see the lines when I try to. Okay. Yeah, when I have a new phone and I'm still not quite totally comfortable with the streaming software, and you know, I'm pretty clueless with this stuff. But I'll poke around and see. I don't think we had them last time. One of the differences this time is that I have a dummy battery in the camera, so which means it's like getting AC power fed to it. So, or is it DC? It's whatever you plug into a wall here in the US. Whatever that is, that's going directly into the camera. So I suppose it's possible that that's creating a hertz difference or something. BitGreen says, on laptop, I see the slightly darker lines scrolling up the screen also. Okay, well, it's good to know that you're seeing the same, that some people are seeing the same thing I'm seeing. I mean, I'm not happy that people are seeing it, but I'm glad to know that what I see in OBS is actually being seen by others. BitGreen says, on laptop I see the slightly, oh, I already read that. Fat says, I hear the Pixel 2 XL screens are junk. I love my Pixel XL first gen now. Damon says, it gets AC, the dummy battery converts it to DC. Yeah. So, by that theory, then there shouldn't be a difference in the way the power is being distributed to the circuits and all that kind of stuff in the camera. I suppose I could do a simple test and just swap it to battery and see what happens. Damon says, just call it an environment effect. The lines. Spooky, spooky. Okay, that's what I'll do. It's a very special spooky Halloween edition. I do have spooky music going, and I'm working on spooky bugs, so it's totally apropos. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm going to start with these. I may not keep all 5 of them, or I may add to them, but in order to determine how many I need to take them a little further than wire placeholders. So I'm going to use some steel stick to block in their shape, and then after that I think I'll be in a better position. Oops, I have to take the plastic off. I'll be in a better position to determine what I want. Amy says, just in time for Halloween, we got a ghost. Fat says, and yes, okay, switch to the tablet and I see black lines, but barely. Amy says, yeah, it's very faint. It is very faint. I, Josh Foreman, am a master of subtlety. That's what people always tell me all the time, every day, every second of every day. They just come up to me and they're like, Josh, you are so subtle. I barely notice that you exist. And I'm like, well, why do you keep telling me this? You keep, like, every second of every day, you're coming up to me and telling me this. And it gets annoying, and I've got stuff I need to be doing. But they're just so insistent that I'm so subtle. I just blend into crowds. Amy says, I thought a phone was ringing, and then I realized it was just the music. Yeah, just look at your hair. Subtle. Exactly. Okay. So this guy is like, blah, I'm gonna come out here. See, the thing I don't want to do is I don't want the graphic element that these bring to fight with the beautiful flow of the graphic design that the piece has to begin with. So like a line going down like this is fighting with these nice swooping organic curves going up there. So I'm thinking if I bend it something like that, then it can start to flow with what's going on around it. Damon says he has someone that follows him around at work and just whispers subtle constantly. That's right. I don't even pay him. And it's not someone, it's everyone. Everyone at the whole company. They just crowd around me constantly and tell me this. It's a miracle we get anything done at ArenaNet. Fat is saying, what's the stuff you're using? This is steel stick. This is made mostly for fixing pipes and stuff. But it has the wonderful attribute of setting up in about 5 minutes. So it's great for blocking in your armatures for things, like connecting wires together or whatever. And since these are just going to be like Fluke Worm looking things, I won't have any problem sculpting over this stuff with epoxy sculpt, which is a lot like steel stick. It's just made for sculpting, and it takes several hours to cure. I don't know if I want it to block off that cool little tiara that the demon head has. Oh, it might be kind of interesting if it's like bursting up and out and then splatting back down on the forehead, like it's feeling its way along. I'm not going to know till I get some more in there. Pat says, okay, I have ideas for that. I like epoxy sculpt, but this would be great for quick connections. Sleepy wheels turning. You have sleepy wheels? Is that like the boring version of Hot Wheels? Amy says, the best artists make the best sound effects. It's a fact. I have been telling the programmers who make our editor for years that they need to add a sound effect mode. So like when you place a prop down in the map, it goes. When you move it, it goes. Well, when you scale it, it goes. When you move it, it would probably go. It would make the day-to-day, my day-to-day work so much more fun. You know, because working on video games isn't fun enough. It needs more fun. Fat says, heh heh. I should have been asleep like an hour ago. Oh. Then yes, you should have sleepy thoughts. Sleepy wheels. JD Robertson, what is up? What is up is I'm making gross fluke worms exploding out of the forehead of this demon thing. Let's see, is that gonna... I don't think that's gonna upset the composition too much. Whoop! But messing everything up sure will. Okay. I don't know how far out I want these guys protruding from the surface. It's already a very thick piece to be mounted on a wall. Amy says, I've watched Feng Zhui's videos, and he always makes fun noises as he does concept art. I'm trying to place who that is. I've certainly seen his stuff before, but I can't recall what he does. Fat says, that's exactly how I said. In my mind. Yeah, I figured you had a little George Bush Jr. in ya. Amy says, I'm thinking you should vary the lengths a little more. Yeah, like these two are a little too similar. I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up like mucking them around a little more after I get the basics down. But yeah, the next one I was going to make was going to be pretty darn long. Actually, I don't think I have enough to do the super long one. I'm going to do another medium one. Damon says, exploring worms have nice pointy ends. Yeah, I was thinking of doing kind of fluke worm looking things that have those kind of arrow shaped heads. If I recall, I think that's fluke worms. I think I'm also going to give them some kind of little scythe legs too, just coming out the front, almost like mandibles or something. Damon says, I'll look it up, not familiar. Fat says, so for me, when things follow the lines of the piece, it looks posed/fake. Yeah, I think there's a sweet spot to be had there. I think I don't want them to follow completely, but I don't want them to mess up the overall flow. Because I don't want them to be the focal point of the piece. Although they may end up being that. There's an awful lot going on here. To be honest, there's way too many things going on here. This is not my best work. This is one of those things where, like, have you ever played Ark? Survival Evolved? That game, and I have a friend who works on it, so I'm allowed to say this sort of thing. That game looks like it has a game director who's like an ADD kid whose parents never told him no. He's just like, oh, what if you can ride dinosaurs? Oh, what if you could have robot dinosaurs? Oh, what if you could get unicorns? Oh, what if you could get pet otters? Oh, what if you could go into space? What if you could swim? And what if you could swim on dolphins and dolphin mounts? And it's just like, and they're like, yes, let's do all of that stuff. Which is, it's an interesting aesthetic. It reminds me of many of the sci-fi movies that have come out over the past 5 or so years, like Jupiter Ascending and, was that the something of 1,000 planets, the city of 1,000, I don't know, whatever that was. I certainly enjoy looking at them, but they're also quite a mess aesthetically. Guardians of the Galaxy is a bit like that too, although I think maybe their color palette keeps them a little more coherent. Anyway, my point is not to denigrate any of those things, is only to say that, oh look, I'm doing pretty much what I think is not great about those myself. Citizen, hello! Monster inside me. What? I don't know what that's a reference to. Fat says, yes, it makes my head hurt. The game, not your piece. Damon says, Valerian. Yes, Valerian. Fat says, I like Jupiter Ascending. Yeah, I liked it too. It was still a mess. One friend of mine referred to it as DeviantArt the movie, and I thought that was very fitting. Like, if you just randomly went to 1,000 DeviantArt pages and grabbed whatever you saw and threw it together in a movie, that's what you would end up with. Andrea says it's 10:50. It is not. It's 8:50. Get it right. Amy says Feng Zhua, which I'm obviously pronouncing horribly, has done a lot of environmental and sci-fi concept art. He's got a slightly painted style, and he's got a lot of cool YouTube videos on concept art and design stuff. What has he worked on? Like movies, games, which ones? Fat says, but for your piece, I love it is the video of you making it on the channel. But for your piece, I love it is the video of you making it on the channel? Question. Wow, I'm gonna. That's some serious sleepy wheels you got going on there, Fat. I cannot make hide nor hair of what you're saying. Andrea says it's late, but I'll watch this. Uzi, cool. Excellent. That is all I ask of anyone, is that they don't sleep. I don't think that's too much to ask. Alright, this is going to be the long one. I almost want to make it jumping, like almost straight out. Damon says, but for your piece, I love it, is the video of you making it on the channel? That didn't help. Fat says, LOL, run-on sentences for the win. JD says, what are the worms made of? Just got here. And Damon remembers correctly, steel stick. Yep, the stuff. This is just their basic wormy form, and I'm going to go in and sculpt on top of them something better looking. So there's already a lot of weight on this side of the piece because this horn is so much bigger than this horn, which you can't see all at once, and because this camera doesn't have a one-handed move, I can't just push it back because my hands are filthy. Grr. The point being that I'm thinking I probably want to shift weight to the left side with these guys. So something like this might work. It's tricky because, so when you've got three-dimensional form, you can't just look at it from one angle and see how it's breaking up the flow of the piece. For good or for ill, depending on what you're aiming for. It's actually a lot like creating sight lines in environment art in video games, because if you're working on kind of an open world map, there are very few places where you know the player is going to be and looking, and where they're going to be looking. So you kind of have to make best guesses when it comes to composition of your scenes. And so on a piece like this, in general, I know the viewer is going to be within, 30 degrees, either above or below it, and 90 degrees from side to side, so there's really no, right answer of where I need these things to be. So I think what I might do is one final littler guy kind of oozing up around here to give a little more weight to this side and to add a little more variety to the lengths of these guys. Dash says, love watching you, Josh. What's something you like? You feel like you specialize in? I specialize in not specializing in anything. I specialize in being a jack of all trades, master of none. It's one of those things where I could dedicate myself to one thing and get pretty good at it, probably. But man, there's just so many things I'm so passionate and interested about. The opportunity cost for me is too high. So I remain a bifurcated, trifurcated, quadrifurcated individual. Andrea says, grrr. Grrr. Fat says, I'm not mad at the worm placement you have going on right now. You're not mad at it? That's good. Maybe one long one going up the horn. Yeah, I don't know how much it's going to break the movement and the narrative that I'm trying to evoke here. I'm trying to get this like exploding grossness coming out of this hole in the middle of the head. And I feel if they're like winding around like tendrils or something, that gives more of a slow or static type of narrative to it. Citizen says, variety is the spice of life. Yes, it is. For me, at least. Some people don't like variety, and that's okay. H3X and hey! H3 says, nice, logging in to do some work and noticed you on live. First time live. Welcome. I hope it's not your last. We have a blast here talking about really random, stupid things. Andrea says, I have to sleep. Night, Josh and friends. Good night, Andrea. Sorry I made you grr, if that was indeed me who made you grr. Fat says, gotcha. Exploding says it all. Yeah, I tend to overthink and overspeak. One of my favorite quotes, I don't know where this comes from, is simply this. A wise man once said nothing. I love it because it's so not me at all. Just not at all. I once had a coworker I was super envious of because he was a very smart guy and very thoughtful, and he hardly ever talked. And so when he did talk, you really valued what he had to say. I was like, oh, that is so cool. Can I be like that? And then I kind of tried, and then I realized, no, I can't be like that. I cannot be the wise man who says nothing. Amy says, Feng Zhu, which is pronounced Z-O-O, so Zhu, worked on a lot of stuff like Wing Commander, the Tinkerbell movie, Wolfenstein, Dead Space, The Sims 3, Star Wars 3, etc., etc. TLDR, everything. Worked on everything. Yeah, I've got a couple coworkers like that who have pretty much worked on everything. The guy who sits next to me worked on Jurassic Park and Dragonheart. And I'm like, that is so unfair. I want to have worked on Jurassic Park and Dragonheart. Uh-oh. Those two lines are too parallel. Bitgreen says, is his channel FZD School? I'd like to check out his work. Amy confirms, yes it is. Fat says, not at all. I just mean I knew exactly what you were going for when you said exploding. The day I don't comment on stuff, people should be worried. I really like the idea of this, but it's not working the way I was hoping. Let's go around like that. I really want to add some weight over here, and I don't want another super long one. I mean, when a thing explodes, it can, like, curl and wrap as it... So that's cool, but... You know, I'm going to go with it for now, and as I develop it further, it'll be fairly easy to just yank it out if I'm not buying it. H3 says, so much for work. Power just went out, just after saying hello. Oh, I'm sorry. Damon says, Dragonheart is quite an overlooked movie these days. You know, the CG in it just does not hold up very well, sadly. Peter's maquette for the movie is incredible. And the CG version, like, they scanned it, and once they rigged it and, you know... rendered it with the limited rendering technology of the mid or late 90s, just wasn't what it should have been. Oh look, there's some more gunk. Should I do anything with this? It's already hardened. Right. Damon says, but Sean Connery! Swords for 300. Maybe a good background movie to more listen to than watch. Perhaps. Amy says, maybe you should put a couple near the edge of the mask. Right now, it sort of looks like hair. Yeah, that would suck if you looked like you had a bad toupee. I mean, one thing I can certainly do is, like, have them all around the inside. Kind of feeling this. Although, again, I want to weight more stuff to the left. I mean, maybe if you see the silhouette of these things crawling around on the inside, that will kind of tie it together and not make it look like Muppet hair. Conrad Kirby says, hey, I finally made it to one of these live. Welcome, Conrad. Glad you did. Alright, now I'm going to be using my Epoxy Sculpt Black. Now I'm wondering if I should do that or if I should use more steel stick to get these guys more, well, see, I don't want to have them stuck to the piece because I want to be able to sculpt and detail on them, which means I need to be able to pull them out and do stuff and put them back, which means they are necessarily not going to have the rest of their snaky bodies in there. Conrad says, this guy definitely has a lot more color since last I saw. Yep, he's an angry, infected red color now. And he's got some nice washes on him so you can see the detail in the sculpt better. Alright, I think what I'm going to do is just mix a small batch of this. Kind of explore the forms that I want for the head of one of these. I'll pick the least emphasized one. What's the least emphasized of these guys? They're all pretty emphatic. I'm going to look up Fluke Worm real quick to see if that is indeed what I was thinking about. Apparently, dogs get fluke worms. That's sad. Okay, so it looks like there's a huge variety of them. One of which is extremely terrifying. This is an Oncossera volvulus. And it has like a sucker and like a weird phallic extension sticking out of it and an elephant trunk and gross like warts all over it. Let me see if I can show my desktop to you guys. Add browser source. Does that work? Create new browser source. Okay. Did it work? No, that's not what I wanted. That's definitely not what I wanted. Thanks, OBS Studio. Add new display capture. Woo! There we go. We got infinity happening. Okay. So okay to that. Minimize that. Alright, so you guys see this? Ah, it's pretty nasty, huh? Let's see. It's not exactly what I was envisioning. That is not a real worm at all. This is what I remembered seeing, is this kind of arrow-shaped head. And I was thinking something along those lines could be cool. Ah, God, look at that. What is even happening there? That should not be happening, whatever that is. Someone messed up. Anyway, I'm just gonna... I've got all sorts of gross ideas in my head, so I'll just go with those for now. Amy says, I'm not usually grossed out by bugs, but these things are gross. Yes. Parasites in general are about the grossest things that exist, both conceptually and visually. I'm using this safety solvent, which is my favorite smoothie material substance for epoxy sculpt, made by the same company. BitGreen says, Josh, if you have any extra plastic from the cast, consider placing it around the mask like shrapnel. That'd convey exploding, if you asked me. It's an interesting thought. I'm always a little bit torn when it comes to... Okay, so I'm thinking specifically of like dioramas of action figures fighting, and they'll be like in a pose where like one's jumping and he's like just connected to the other guy with his fist hitting the other guy's face, and there's like an armature wire that goes all the way through, and that's like super dynamic and cool looking, and I love that. But when I think about doing something like exploding shards of the forehead coming out of here, I think it's wrong. And I'm trying to figure out why I think it's wrong. Might be because I'm taking the explosion narrative metaphorically, not literally. I want to convey the aesthetic of violent bursting, but I don't want to literally reproduce. Okay, maybe this is it. Maybe because a still scene of an explosion is this like weird dichotomy of... But then, I mean, that also applies to punching action figures too. I'm gonna have to think about that. What is my problem? I should look up leeches too. There's a wide variety of leech physiognomy as well. Okay. Go to your home. Okay, so I'm gonna look up leeches real quick. I'm gonna move this camera down a touch. Okay, I'm gonna look up leeches real quick. I'm gonna spell it wrong and get a football player or coach. I'm gonna spell it right. And go to images. Here we go. Okay. What's a good weird leech face look like? Yeah, check this guy out. That's a pretty smile, isn't it? Still not seeing the thing that I remember seeing at one point. So it clearly wasn't a leech and wasn't a fluke worm, but it was something with this like even more terrifying mouth than that. And he says, I would just think it would be difficult to create that look without wires or whatever showing. If the wires could be seen, for me, it would break the illusion. Maybe also block a nice bit of the mask behind as well. Leeches are the real vampires. Yes, they are. And vampire bats. They're also the real vampires. Citizen says, bed bugs are nasty blood suckers. Yes, yes they are. One of those things that I dread. Apparently getting rid of them is a horrific ordeal. It requires removing and washing and burning and poisoning everything in the world. I'm kind of tempted to leave these guys like super plain and just let some like I'll make them super shiny and glistening and let that do the talking. Probably because I am still very conscious of detracting from the piece itself, which I think is still supposed to be the DemonHunter logo. But maybe the point at which you've thrown so much stuff against the wall, that's no longer the central focus, and there is no, I don't know. Maybe it's like a painting of a battle scene or a collage. Although even those, I would assume the good ones still have like some kind of focal point and some kind of designed path for your eye to follow. If I was a really good artist, I would have like drawn this all out and thought it all through, but so much of this has just been kind of seat of my pants, winging it. Mostly because this was just a seat of my pants sort of thing. I ended up making 3 casts, and I was like, I should do 3 different things with these. That'll be no problem, LOL. Should be really fast. Famous last words. Amy says, all I'm thinking about is that the bugs need to be a warmer black. And I'm thinking a worm in the eye? So, not the only thing. You were thinking 2 things at once? That's pretty impressive. I hear that scientists have done studies that say multitasking is impossible, but I refuse to believe it. Alright, I'm going to play around a little bit with some kind of texture on these things. I don't know what yet. Alright. Focus on you. You going to do it? Yeah. Huh. So apparently sculpting on something that is pure black is not super camera friendly. Who would have thought? Let me see if I turn this light on, if it'll help. Oh, look at that. Much better. Amy says, I think it's that what you think is multitasking is just switching back and forth between 2 subjects. Yes, that is what I read in the study. But here's the thing. If I'm in a meeting or at church and I do not have a sketchbook with me and I'm not sketching, I literally will, my brain will go to something. I'll start thinking about a project, what I need to do next, and lots of other things besides what is being spoken around me. Whereas if I have my sketchbook with me and I'm sketching, I can follow along perfectly and I don't perceive that I miss anything, and I'm able to give feedback and jump into the conversation at any point. And so I feel like that is true multitasking. But yeah, I guess it's hard to prove one way or another that it's not just like super rapid switching back and forth. Citizen says, there was an episode in X-Files where there was a human fluke worm who lived in sewage that had a very nasty bit like a leech to impregnate the host. Yeah, I remember that X-Files episode. Wasn't he like in a porta potty at some point? Or yeah, that was super gross. That was like their third grossest episode. Amy says, who would have thunk? The goth YouTuber story. Damon says, looks like an imp's tale. What is the goth YouTuber story? I've never heard of that. I'm basically just doing the same kind of folds and wrinkles that I would do on like a sleeve of a tight-fitting shirt. Amy says, yeah, I agree. I do that with art as well. I don't know whether or not that is counted or not. Maybe they use different parts of the brain. They certainly use different parts of the brain. I mean, it depends. Like, if I'm laying out a drawing where I'm thinking conceptually about it, then yes, that will use the part of the brain that needs to listen to what people are saying, and then I'm not listening well. But most of drawing for me is I've already have it laid out and I'm just doing detail work, or, you know, I'm just actioning on what I already knew I needed to do. And in that case, I feel like I'm fully engaged with what's happening around me. Amy says, oh, I was just making a joke. You said that it was difficult to see details that are black on black, and I reacted how videos where a goth YouTuber is showing off clothes that are black on black, and it's super difficult to see anything. Okay, I get you now. I've always liked a large spectrum of the goth aesthetic, but can't fully commit to it. Yesterday I was almost full goth. I had giant boots with like metal toes and leather flames on them, and these like, see these crazy pants with like zippers all over them, and my usual chain, and like a belt that's got little loopy McDeelies on them. And then I don't know if this like made it perfect or ruined it, but I also had a Darth Vader shirt on. You know, it's like a little, like a photograph of Darth Vader's chest that goes on your shirt. So that either made me a nerdy goth or the gothiest goth. I'm not sure which. That's the beauty of being in your 40s. You don't have to care where you land on any particular spectrum or subgroup. Just do what you want. Just do it. Don't care. I tilt this. Can I tilt you? Am I allowed? No, not allowed. Can I tilt you this way? Yes. Okay. There we go. Amy says, I take up elements from goth style all the time. It makes putting together an outfit more like designing a character. Yep, that's always fun. I saw a really fun diagram of goth styles that must have had 20 or 30 little variations. Everything from rockabilly goth to, you know, steampunk goth to Western goth, Japanese goth. You know, obviously you have your traditional like romantic goth, horror goth, the original like punk goth. I don't know what the current kids are now who have the like wear the spray masks and goggles and dreadlocks, whatever those guys are. Are they neon goths? Is that it? Rosemary. Hi, Rosemary. Says, hi, Josh. Just woke up here in Sweden, and it's a really nice way to start my day. I'm new to the world of sculpture, and you are an inspiration to me. Thank you so much for the videos. Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me know. And I called you Rosemary. You are Rosenberg Martins. My apologies. I'm just glancing because I cannot look at the screen too long because this clay gets unworkable within about half an hour. So. Amy says, I think that's cybergoth. Yeah, that sounds right. I've heard that word before. Damon says, the fact that there's a subgenres of goth kind of destroys the whole point. I guess it depends on what the point is for you, but yeah, certainly the original kind of underground subculture movement of it, yeah, that probably went away in the late 80s. Once it became a market trend that could be marketed and sold in stores at the mall. Yeah, I think that's kind of why the word's not derivative. What is the word? The fancy word for insulting term, mall goth, came from. It's just suburban kids who like that's pretty much me. Like, I was a suburban kid. Hey, I like the look of lots of zippers and straps and stuff. That just looks cool and different than, you know, boring old jeans or whatever. So why wouldn't I be attracted to that? Derogatory, that's the word. Amy says, as far as I've seen, they are more like fashion styles, some with musical backgrounds. And the original goth was very much based on goth music. Right, which was a derivation of punk music. Most of the bands that I love most are goth influenced in some way or another. I just like minor chords a lot. Like pretty much any genre. It can be classical, it can be, you know, metal, it could be rock, it could be country, it could be rap, whatever it is. If you got minor key in there, I love it. Christmas, like, there's some really awesome gothy sounding Christmas songs. Damon says, not to distract from your sculpting time limit, but you're pretty out of focus. Yeah, thanks. I need to... So I have autofocus on here I could turn on, but my hands and the sculpture don't fill up enough of the camera to keep it on there. And if I get it close enough to where it fills up the camera, then, you know, I'll shift my body and suddenly I'm completely out of frame. So I don't know if there's a good solution short of hiring a cameraman, or I could just force my son to sit here for hours whenever I stream. At some point, if the channel grows enough and there's enough people talking, then I'll probably drag them in here to just read comments as they come in. I'm trying to do like some kind of little mouth on these guys. I haven't decided what yet, so I'm just kind of putting a little flap in here. Maybe I'll put multiple flaps. A mouth and a mouth and a mouth. Damon says, children are free labor. That's right, that's why you have them. It's because it's just too hard to take out the trash by yourself. So you have to have kids to do that for you. It's totally worth it, let me tell you. Yeah. Tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in food and diapers and educational expenses and travel and all the other things that you end up paying for kids. But man, you don't have to take out the trash anymore, so totes worth it. Conrad says, that'd be good father-son bonding. Heh. I agree. Except if he doesn't want to, in which case it's not very much bonding, it's more like bondage. kind of liking this. I think maybe if I've got these little flapperdoodles here on the bottom, which, man, that's hard to see with the shininess and the black. But trust me, there's little flapperdoodles here. And if I put little kind of spiky teeth on them, I think that could be pretty cool looking. Dottie says you should check out Epicenter's new single from their upcoming album. The song is called Firepower. It's on iTunes and Spotify. They are a metal band. I think I have an Epicenter CD. Cannot remember. Pretty sure I do. Dottie says, oh, Amy says, I'll check him out, Dottie. I'm always on the lookout for new music. Damon says, I like the flaps. Dottie says, cool, Amy, my son is the lead guitarist. Awesome. Well, tell your son that I will make an effort to make sure I'm listening to his band next. I'm like 90% sure I have their CD, just at least one of them. Unless there's another band that has a very similar name that I could be getting it mixed up with. Okay. I feel like this is working. Amy says, I will judge him mercilessly, LOL. Okay, now it's really bothering me. Let me check my CD collection real quick. Oh, Dottie, so close. This is what I was thinking of. There we go. Epic Cloud. How close is that? You could understand my confusion. Okay, so I'll check out Epicenter next. Dottie says there's a jazz band that has a similar name. So Epic Cloud is a Devin Townsend project, which is also metal, but it's a little more progressive rock metal. Damon says he found him on YouTube. That's where all the cool kids are nowadays, I hear. On the YouTubes. Damon says, sound is horrible on the video. Probably not a good representation. Yeah, if it's live, it's very rarely going to be a good representation of a band. Damon says, Epicenter is thrash metal. Really? You would call it thrash metal? I mean, it's kind of all over the place. If I recall it correctly, it's got some thrash elements, but I feel like it's progressive overall in its presentation and all over the mapness. What is that called? Variety. If it's the one I'm thinking of, like they bring in the rock organ from time to time, and they got like backup hallelujah singers here and there. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just all over the place. Bit Green says, now that you've fleshed out some of the worms, I'm starting to see the climax of the explosion take shape. Excellent. This guy is curved all the way around. All the wrinkles are going to be coming up from the belly. Amy says, I found specifically the new song video called Firepower, Epicenter, new single, 2017. I haven't got to listen to it yet since I'm on mobile, and YouTube is crappy. So I've been told that 60% of YouTube viewership happens over mobile, and I've never in my life wanted to look at YouTube on a mobile device. I just don't get what you kids are doing with the mobile devices and the YouTubes. Although it could be because I'm usually either in the garage sculpting, or I'm at work with YouTube on in the background, or I'm at home in front of my desktop computer, you know, kind of half watching TV and half having YouTube or tutorials or Photoshop or whatever else going. So I guess there's just not much of a need for mobile viewership in my life. Amy says, I'm just too lazy to turn on my laptop. Wow, that is so lazy. You know, with laziness like that, I don't think you're going to do too well on your SATs. Dash, hello Dash, says, does Chromecast count as mobile because it plays on my phone-ish but streams it to my Chromecast? I don't even know what a Chromecast is. Is that a piece of hardware? Is it like a box you hook to your TV? Amy says, I don't usually have to turn it on, so if I'm just watching a YouTube video, there's no point to turn it on, just to check if there's anything to watch. Damon says, Epicenter reminds me of old Pantera. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Good old early 90s thrash metal. Were they actually around in the 80s? They may have been. They probably were. Okay, that's good. Goes like that. Dash says, haha, yeah, it's basically something I can stream to my TV. Oh, okay. So you're actually watching me on TV? Am I a TV star? About a decade after it's too late for a TV star to have any real meaning? Dottie Burke says, Damon, yeah, Pantera is definitely an influence on them. Pantera has been an influence on many people. BitGreen says, subscribers coming from mobile users makes sense. When you open the app, it shows recommended videos first, but on my laptop, I just have my subscriptions bookmarked to open instantly. Yeah, when I click my YouTube shortcut, whatever, it takes me to their splash page where it has their recommended, which is actually mostly pertinent stuff that I'm, you know, it's either continuations of stuff that I've started, you know, channels that I like and have been to a lot. I'm sure they throw in other random stuff too, but algorithm's been pretty good to me. Damon says, R.I.P. Dimebag. Poor Dimebag. Man, he must have died like 10 years ago or something. Judging by how I feel like it was not that long ago, and everything I feel wasn't very long ago is at least 10 years ago. Amy says, judging mercilessly, the guitar is really good. I'm enjoying it. Dottie says, sweet Amy, I'll tell my son Ryan. Damon says, he should totally sign a CD and send it to me. Amy says, some stranger on the internet likes your guitar. Damon says he was killed in December 2004. I'm not laughing at that he died. I'm laughing at me thinking that 10 years was an overestimate when it was clearly an underestimate. God, getting all of you guys. It's a funny thing. Eventually people will be chuckling about remembering when I died 10 years ago, and it will actually have been 14 years ago or whatever. Can't wait. Dottie says, haha, Damon, their CD will be coming out in a couple weeks. Damon says, alas, poor Foreman, I knew him well. I'll be sure to have it in my will that my skull is sent to you so that you can hold it up in ponderance remembrance of me. Damon says, thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, who knows? By the time I die, maybe phrenology will have come back in vogue, and you can bring it out at dinner parties, and you and your guests can palpate all the knobs on my skull and speculate as to why I was the way I was. Whew, okay, 2 to go. Oh, 3. I got this little guy too. I don't know if I'm still going to do this guy. We'll see. I like the idea of this guy. I don't know if I like the execution of this guy. Damon says we can tell from the measurements of the aft center quadrant that Mr. Foreman was indubitably a subtle man. Oh! That should give you and your guests a good chortle. They'll all stand around muttering, indubitably, indubitably, subtle indeed. Oh! I assume all your guests are stuffy British cartoon characters. Bitgreen says, hey, yeah, you can donate your body to science. Why can't you donate your body to the theater department? Or to the Halloween store, for that matter. Damon says, quite. Amy says there was a body that was embalmed and somehow made its way into our haunted house or something of that sort. And it was a while before anyone realized it was a real human. Oh my. That sounds like it was breaking a couple laws. While twisting that around actually gave it a pretty cool, like, you can't really see it very well, but pretty good torsion in the skin. Amy says, source, Ask a Mortician YouTube channel. Trying to think what I would want to ask a mortician. In general, the things we do in the West to corpses is just very disturbing to me. I don't know why we put them on display and, like, gussy them up with makeup. And I mean, I understand the reasons that are stated, but to me the obvious downside is so huge. I don't see how it's a comfort or... I don't know, I guess personally, I just want to be cremated and my sons can take my ashes up and dump them in Mount St. Helens, since it's full of ash anyway. And that way, whenever they see the mountain, they could think of me, and they don't have to go to a cemetery, and there doesn't have to be a casket with a corpse that's all painted to look less dead. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of the whole Western funeral tradition. Amy says, and it was a fun house. Oh, wow. That doesn't sound fun at all. Damon says, burn me to ashes and toss me in the Hoh rainforest somewhere. Never heard of the Hoh rainforest. Where's that? My nose guy went away. That's okay. I'll just use this. I don't need the little pieces of base. Damon says, west side of the Olympic Mountains. Okay, well, I've certainly driven through there before then. Amy says, I'm a whatever is least harmful to the environment person, so whatever it is in the next lifetime. Dottie says, I saw an article where they can cremate you with seeds and they plant it and it grows into a tree so you can live again as a tree. Amy says, I've heard that cremated remains aren't that great for tree growth. Well, I know in like Sweden agriculture where they burn down huge swaths of the forest, that those ashes are they help the fertility of regrowth a lot. But maybe there's something about human ashes that are different than tree ashes. I don't know. Okay, last one? Last one! Good, I'm starving. Damon says, human cremation is too hot. It burns us up too much. Just takes more time before we become something useful. Amy says, I think the problem is that what's left contains few nutrients and it sticks together too much. That makes sense. I mean, I know that they really want to burn out as much of the like actual detail. Like they don't want chunks of charred bone and stuff left, so they probably do overdo the heat more than is necessary, which yeah, probably chemically alters it quite a bit. So if it's not diluted enough by actual soil, it's not helpful. Yeah. That is one of those things that I will just blindly accept and file that away into the back of my subconscious, and at some point it will be incorporated into my quote-unquote knowledge, and I'll think I know it, and I'll spout it off as a fun fact to someone, and then they're gonna Google it and be like, no, that's totally wrong. So thanks a lot, Amy. Amy says, you're welcome. I heard it from a mortician, so I would trust her. Whether or not I trust my own memory of what she said is a different story. Yeah, memories are tricky things, since they're not actually recordings of your experiences. They're reconstructions based on your own personal biases and judgments and wish fulfillment and all the other things that trip us up as peoples. And that's based on a memory of stuff that I heard and read from various lectures and books. So take that for what you will, as you will, when you will. Whipper will. Another question that comes to mind is, how do you know that's actually a mortician? And not just someone who's like, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and pretend I'm a mortician. After all, I have on my website Ask Dr. Know-It-All column where I answer questions based on my gut instincts without doing any research whatsoever. It turns out pretty great. You should go to breathoflifeart.com and go to the Ask Dr. Know-It-All section. There's 2 articles up there now. I have several more I need to post, but I've got some pictures I need to get in there first. But of course you can't, Amy, because you are on mobile and you're not allowed to go to other places. If any of you guys have any questions that you want an answer to based on gut instinct and no research or knowledge, then you should leave a comment there. And I'll do my best to write a long nonsensical article in response. That'd be cool, because I haven't actually had anyone actually ask me questions. I've had to ask all my own questions so far. But that's because I'm not a big TV celebrity yet. I'm only on one person's TV, and that doesn't count. Damon says, ooh, burn, Amy. Amy says she's written books and she's got her own funeral company and everything. I'm pretty sure she's legit. Well, she says all those things. Have you looked into them personally? Have you hired a PI to go track her and make sure she's actually going to this place that she claims to work at? This is the new challenge in the information age, is learning to vet our sources in reasonable ways. Damon says, fake news. Exactly. Conrad says, technically you're on my TV as well. I just put tape over the logo and wrote monitor with a Sharpie. Yeah, that there's no longer a bright dividing line between TVs and monitors anymore, is there? Oh man, can you guys see the texture on the tip there? A little bit, like the creases and wrinkles on my gloves are leaving a really pleasing subtle. I don't even know what they would be described as, but it's something I've seen on gross skin before, so I like it. Amy says, reasonable does not include sending out a PI to investigate everyone. Well then, Amy, I think you're just asking to be duped. I mean, I could tell you that I'm an artist who knows how to make art. And if you haven't done your investigation, you wouldn't know that I actually hire a real artist to stand behind me and wrap his arms around me and do all the actual art while I just talk and yammer and pretend I'm doing it. Incidentally, this goes full circle back to Labyrinth, which we were talking about last time. You know, the scenes where David Bowie was doing those fun, like, crystal ball juggling on his finger tricks. That's literally how they did that. They had a crystal ball juggler, like, right behind him, sticking his arm up through his sleeve. Amy says, but if she's lying, it's a pretty impressive lie. JD says that's how David Bowie juggled. Well, either I'm out of sync with you or you're out of sync with me, because I already said that. JD says, lol, I beat you to it. Well, you think you beat me to it, but your text just now popped up, so... Should we just call it a tie? I wonder how long ago David Bowie died. Maybe it was 10 years ago. I wonder if in heaven David Bowie and Dimebag are friends. Damon says, all the worms together remind me of a squid bursting out. Yeah, a little bit. I don't mind that. Certainly with the kind of triangular heads on them, they are reminiscent of squid tentacles. Damon says, that's a concert I would like to see. Pantera and Bowie together. Amy says, that assumes a lot, but would be fun to think about. JD says, did you ever watch the Never-Ending Story? I loved that when I was a kid. I just found out it was based on a book and the writer tried to sue them because he didn't like how the movie turned out. Yeah, that's a pretty common phenomenon. I did see that movie. Even when I was a kid, I think I was exactly the age of the actor when it came out. And even back then I thought the effects were super cheesy. But I loved the hero who wrote on the Atreyu. Come to think of it, he had a band named after him. Another metal band. I loved the way Atreyu looked, and I always tried to get my hair to look like that when I was a kid. But I just ended up with a terrible 80s mullet instead. Alright, that's a thing. I feel like I did not get the tilt. Oh, that helps. I want more weight going in that direction. That direction. Amy says, on what grounds could you sue for that? BitGreen says, defamation of, quote, of parentheses, fictional character. Amy says, I don't think there's a law that prevents horrible movie versions of books, or else a lot of other movies would be sued. A lot of movies probably are sued. Maybe something based on the contract. Yeah, a lot of times writers will have, like, not final say, but basically they can quibble with the studio over details. And so the studios are always trying to get the contracts to basically say that the writers have, like, no say in it, or strictly a advisory role or something, but they don't have any authority to actually make decisions that the producers or director or anyone has to listen to. But if the contract is vague enough that could leave wiggle room for the author to feel like they should have final say and they weren't listened to, then I could see that possibly leading to a lawsuit. These are all my complete guesses based on absolutely zero experience. Let's see here. Trying to look at it at all the angles. There's one angle where this is like just a completely straight stick, and that's unfortunate. I don't know if it's too late to bend it. Well, there's a bend for you. Okay. Well, we'll see if it holds together after that snap. I mean, it's got wire in there, and I assume the wire didn't snap, so. Yeah, well, I'll let this sit, check it out tomorrow, and see how I feel about it then. See if I can get you guys a better view. Amy says, I mean, I can't think of any other reason. Granted, I'm not a lawyer. I just enjoy learning about everything I could possibly learn. That's going to be a great advantage to you throughout your life. Alright, I'm going to call it a night. And definitely see you guys on the weekend. I'm pretty sure I will be doing just like final touches on this at that point. Yeah, so thanks a lot for coming around, you guys. You are the true stalwarts, the Wednesday night folks. And yeah, hopefully I'll see all of you guys on the weekend. Have a good night. Bye-bye.